Have you ever kept a secret so big, so fundamental to who you are, that you felt like you were living two separate lives? Have you ever looked at someone and thought they were perfect, except for the one impossible thing that could never work between you? This is the story of Blake Orion and Carmilla Ophelia. Two people who fell in love despite believing they were from two completely different worlds. Two people who were certain their relationship was doomed from the start. They were both right, and both completely wrong. It started on a Thursday night at Moonfall University's library. Not the most romantic setting, I know, but sometimes fate doesn't care about aesthetics. Blake Orion sat in his usual corner on the third floor, the one with the broken overhead light that he'd never reported. Darkness was easier, safer. At 23, he'd spent the last 5 years perfecting the art of being invisible, of blending into the human world so seamlessly that no one would ever suspect what he really was. He adjusted his tinted glasses, supposedly for a light sensitivity condition, and pretended to read his psychology textbook. In reality, he was doing what he did every night, counting the minutes until he could leave, go hunting, and feed the hunger that constantly gnawed at him. That's when she walked in. Carmilla Ophelia had this way of moving that made Blake's breath catch, if he actually needed to breathe, which he didn't. She wore oversized sweaters that hung off one shoulder, had hair the color of midnight that fell in waves down her back, and always wore gloves. Elegant, vintage gloves that she claimed were a fashion statement. Blake had noticed her weeks ago, had tried not to notice her, had failed spectacularly. She sat down 3 tables away, close enough that Blake could hear her heartbeat. Except, he couldn't. Blake frowned. His enhanced hearing could pick up a heartbeat from 50 feet away. He could hear the nervous thump-thump of the student 2 floors down cramming for an exam. He could hear the steady rhythm of the security guard making his rounds on the first floor. But from Carmilla, nothing. Maybe she was just too far away. Maybe the walls were messing with the acoustics. Maybe he was losing his vampiric abilities because he'd been living on animal blood instead of human blood for too long. Blake tried to focus on his book, but his eyes kept drifting to Carmilla. She was reading something, a thick, leather-bound volume that looked ancient. Her gloved fingers traced the pages with reverence. That seat taken? Blake jumped. He'd been so focused on Carmilla that he hadn't noticed her approach. She stood next to his table now, close enough that he should have been overwhelmed by the scent of her blood. But there was nothing. No heartbeat. No scent of blood. Just the faint smell of old books and lavender. No. Go ahead, Blake managed, trying to keep his voice steady. Carmilla smiled, a careful smile that didn't show teeth, and sat down across from him. Thanks. The library's packed tonight. Midterms, you know. Yeah, Blake said, though he'd aced all his exams without studying. Photographic memory was one of the few perks of vampirism. I'm Carmilla, she said, extending a gloved hand. Blake. He shook her hand, noting how cold it was even through the fabric. Poor circulation, probably. Humans got that sometimes. They fell into an easy silence, both pretending to study. But Blake noticed that Carmilla never turned a page. And Carmilla noticed that Blake's book was upside down. Over the next few weeks, their library meetings became routine. Always the third floor. Always the broken light. Always after sunset. Blake told himself he was being careful. He only met Carmilla at night, when he was at his strongest. He kept his tinted glasses on. He made excuses about his weird diet when she invited him to lunch. Carmilla told herself she was being cautious too. She wore her gloves. She avoided touching Blake's skin. She always met him after dark, when her vampiric nature was hardest to detect. They were both convinced they were successfully hiding their true selves. They were both wrong. So what's with the glasses? Carmilla asked one night, closing her book. You wear them even when it's dark. Blake tensed. Light sensitivity. Medical condition. Right. And the whole, I can only meet at night thing. I work during the day, Blake lied smoothly. Security job. Overnight shifts are just easier for my schedule. Carmilla nodded, seeming to accept this. I get it. I'm kind of nocturnal myself. Yeah. Why's that? She hesitated. Insomnia. I sleep better during the day. Another lie. But Blake didn't know that. And the gloves? Blake asked, nodding at her hands. Carmilla looked down at her vintage lace gloves. Family heirloom. My grandmother left them to me. I wear them in her memory. Blake smiled. That's sweet. It was also completely false. Carmilla wore the gloves because her hands were ice cold, and the last thing she needed was a human boyfriend noticing that his girlfriend had the body temperature of a corpse. Because that's what they were becoming, slowly but surely. Boyfriend and girlfriend. It happened gradually. Study sessions turned into coffee dates, though neither of them actually drank the coffee. Coffee dates turned into long walks through the cemetery at midnight. Long walks turned into stargazing on the roof of Blake's apartment building. I've never met anyone like you, Blake admitted one night, lying on his back and staring up at the stars. You're so alive. Carmilla laughed, a sound like wind chimes. Alive. Yeah. That's me. If only he knew the irony. She turned to look at him. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why do you always look so sad? Like you're carrying the weight of the world. Blake was quiet for a long moment. Do you ever feel like you're fundamentally different from everyone around you? Like you're playing a role, and if people knew the real you, they'd run. Carmilla's breath caught. If she had been breathing, which she wasn't. Every single day, she whispered. Blake turned to her, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. Two vampires, both convinced the other was human, both terrified of being discovered, both falling hopelessly in love. Blake leaned in to kiss her. Carmilla pulled back. Wait. What's wrong? I need to tell you something. About me. About who I really am. Blake's heart, his metaphorical heart, since his actual heart didn't beat, sank. This was it. She was going to tell him she'd met someone else. Someone normal. Someone who could take her to brunch and walk on the beach at noon and give her a normal life. Okay, he said quietly. Carmilla took a deep breath she didn't need. I can't be with you the way you probably want. I have this condition, and it means I can't go out during the day, and I have dietary restrictions, and I'm cold all the time, and… Carmilla. Blake took her gloved hands in his. I don't care about any of that. I have my own issues, remember? We'll figure it out together. She looked at him with such hope and pain in her eyes that Blake wanted to tell her everything. Wanted to explain that he understood, that he had secrets too, that maybe they were more compatible than she thought. But he didn't. Because what if she was disgusted? What if she hated him for being a monster? So instead, he kissed her. And she kissed him back. And neither of them noticed that their lips were exactly the same temperature. Dating as a vampire is complicated. Dating as a vampire who thinks you're dating a human? That's a whole new level of difficulty. Blake became a master of excuses. Sorry, I can't meet for breakfast. Morning shifts, you know. Garlic bread? Allergic. Severe allergy. That beach party sounds fun, but I burn really easily. Like, really easily. Carmilla had her own repertoire. Lunch date? I wish I could, but I have this thing with sunlight. Triggers migraines. Rare steak? Could you ask them to make it rarer? Like, still mooing. Holy water? Why would I want to go to a church blessing? I'm atheist. Very atheist. They were both trying so hard to appear normal that they wrapped themselves in layers of lies. Blake started keeping blood bags in his apartment, hidden in a locked mini-fridge that he told Carmilla contained medication that needs to stay cold. He fed before every date, terrified that his hunger might make his eyes flash red or his fangs extend at an inopportune moment. Carmilla did the same, hunting in the hours before meeting Blake, making sure she was sated enough that she wouldn't accidentally reveal her vampiric strength or speed. Their friends started to notice the weirdness. Dude, why haven't we met this mysterious girlfriend of yours? Blake's roommate, Marcus, asked one evening. "You've been dating for 3 months. Is she even real?" "She's real," Blake said, not looking up from his laptop. "She's just busy." "Busy doing what?" "She's a student like you. She has family stuff. It's complicated." Marcus shook his head. "Man, I'm happy you found someone, but this whole secret relationship thing is weird. It's like you're living a double life." Blake almost laughed. If only Marcus knew. Carmilla faced similar interrogation from her best friend, Luna. "I'm just saying, it's suspicious," Luna said, painting her nails black. "You never bring him around. We've never seen him in daylight. Are you sure he's not, like, a criminal or something?" "He's not a criminal," Carmilla insisted. "He's just private. Or married." "He's not married. Or a vampire," Luna joked. Carmilla's blood ran cold. Colder than usual, anyway. "That's not funny," she said tightly. Luna raised an eyebrow. "Chill, Cam. I'm kidding. Obviously vampires aren't real." Carmilla forced a laugh. "Right. Obviously." The close calls started around month 4. Blake and Carmilla were in his apartment, watching a movie. Some romantic comedy that neither of them was paying attention to. Carmilla's head rested on Blake's chest, and he played with her hair, marveling at how comfortable this felt. Then his roommate burst through the door, carrying groceries. "Blake, little help? These bags are— oh, sorry. Didn't know you had company." Marcus set the bags on the counter, and one tipped over. A jar of spaghetti sauce rolled out, hit the floor, and shattered. The smell of tomato sauce filled the room. But underneath it, Blake smelled something else. Blood. Marcus had cut his hand on the broken glass. Blake's eyes flashed red. His fangs started to extend. The hunger rose in him like a wave, overwhelming his control. He had to get out. "Bathroom," he choked out, shoving past Carmilla and practically running down the hall. Carmilla watched him go, concerned. Then she looked at Marcus's bleeding hand, and her own eyes flashed crimson. "Oh. No, no, no." She grabbed her bag. "I should go. Blake's not feeling well. I'll check on him later." She was out the door before Marcus could respond. In the bathroom, Blake splashed cold water on his face, willing his fangs to retract. It took 10 minutes before he trusted himself to come out. Marcus was bandaging his hand. "Sorry about that, man. Didn't mean to interrupt your date." "It's fine," Blake said, his voice strained. "Is she gone?" "Yeah, she left. Said you weren't feeling well." Marcus gave him a strange look. "You do look pale. You okay?" "Just need to eat," Blake muttered, heading for his locked mini-fridge. Carmilla made it 3 blocks before she had to stop and lean against a building, breathing hard. That was too close. Way too close. She'd almost lost control in front of Blake. Almost revealed what she was. She needed to be more careful. But how much longer could she keep this up? How long could she pretend to be something she wasn't? Her phone buzzed. "Blake. Hey, are you okay? Marcus said you left." "I'm fine," Carmilla typed back. "Just felt sick suddenly. Might be coming down with something. Want me to come over? I can bring soup." Carmilla smiled despite herself. "I'll be okay. Just need rest. Talk tomorrow." "Tomorrow. Feel better." She pocketed her phone and started walking again. The streets were empty this late at night. Humans were asleep, safe in their beds, unaware of the predators that walked among them. Carmilla had never felt more alone. The beginning of the end started with a camping trip. Actually, that's a lie. The beginning of the end started with Blake trying to prove he was a normal, outdoorsy guy who could definitely handle a weekend in the woods. "Camping," Carmilla repeated, looking at Blake like he'd suggested they vacation on the sun. "Yeah. Fresh air, stargazing, hiking. It'll be romantic." Blake was trying very hard to sound enthusiastic. In reality, he was terrified. 2 days away from his blood supply. 2 days of constant close contact with Carmilla, but he had to try. Normal couples went camping. Normal couples did things in nature. Blake, I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Don't you like the outdoors? Yes, but the sun. We'll bring sunscreen. I burn easily too, remember? Carmilla couldn't think of a good excuse that wouldn't sound suspicious. Okay, but we're bringing a really good tent. Like, blackout curtains good. Deal. They chose a campsite far from the city, deep in the woods where the trees blocked out most of the sunlight. Blake told himself this was for Carmilla's benefit. Carmilla told herself this was for Blake's benefit. Neither of them acknowledged that it was exactly what they both needed. The first night was perfect. They built a fire, which neither of them could actually feel the warmth of, but it looked romantic. They roasted marshmallows, which neither of them could eat, but they made the motions. They lay under the stars and talked about everything and nothing. I could stay here forever, Carmilla whispered. With me? Blake asked. With you. They fell asleep in the tent as dawn approached, wrapped in each other's arms. The second day, things started to go wrong. Blake woke up to voices outside the tent. Loud, drunk voices. Dude, is someone camping here? Looks like it. Should we mess with them? College kids. Probably from a nearby party. Blake groaned. Carmilla stirred beside him. What's going on? She mumbled. Some people outside. I'll deal with it. Blake unzipped the tent and stepped out into the late afternoon sun. The pain was immediate and excruciating. His skin began to smoke. Blake bit back a scream and dove back into the tent, his skin already blistering. Blake. Carmilla grabbed him, her eyes wide with horror. What happened? Son, he gasped. Forgot, wasn't thinking. He stopped. Carmilla was staring at his smoking, healing skin with recognition, not confusion. You're healing, she whispered. I can explain. You're a vampire. It wasn't a question. Blake looked up at her, and for the first time in months, he saw her clearly. The too pale skin, the eyes that were too bright, the way she never quite breathed right. So are you, he said. They stared at each other in shocked silence. Outside, the drunk college kids were trying to open their tent. Hey, anyone home? Carmilla's eyes flashed red. They need to leave. Now. Agreed. They moved in perfect synchronization. Carmilla unzipped the tent and stepped out, into the direct sunlight. The college kids yelped and stumbled back. Standing before them was a girl with glowing red eyes and visible fangs, completely unbothered by the sun that should have incinerated her. Leave, Carmilla said, her voice layered with vampiric compulsion. Forget you saw us. Go home. The boys ran. Carmilla stepped back into the tent, where Blake was staring at her in disbelief. You can go in the sun, he said. I'm older than you thought, Carmilla said quietly. Old enough that the sun only hurts, doesn't kill. How long have you been turned? 5 years. 57. Blake's jaw dropped. You're 79 years old. Yeah. I was turned when I was 22. Carmilla sat down, suddenly looking exhausted. I should have told you. I should have told you, Blake countered. All this time, I thought you were human. I was so careful, so paranoid about you finding out. I was doing the same thing. Carmilla laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. We're both idiots. Complete idiots, Blake agreed. They looked at each other, and then they were both laughing, the tension breaking like a dam. I can't believe this, Blake said, wiping his eyes. All those excuses. All those lies. The garlic allergy. I'm not allergic. I just can't stand the smell. It's too strong with vampire senses. The insomnia. I'm literally undead. I don't sleep. They collapsed into laughter again, the absurdity of it all hitting them. When they finally calmed down, Carmilla took Blake's hand. No gloves this time. "So," she said, "we're both vampires." "We're both vampires," Blake confirmed. "And we've been dating for 4 months. 4.5. And we never once suspected each other. Not once." Carmilla shook her head. "We are terrible vampires." "The worst," Blake agreed. Then, more seriously, "Are you okay with this? With me being what I am?" Carmilla looked at him like he was crazy. "Blake, you're exactly what I am. If anything, this makes everything easier." Easier. No more excuses. No more hiding. No more pretending to eat food or drink coffee or tolerate sunlight. She squeezed his hand. "We can just be ourselves." Blake felt something loosen in his chest. Something he hadn't realized was tight. "I've been hiding for so long," he admitted. "From everyone. Even from people like me. I was turned against my will, and I hated what I became. I've spent 5 years trying to be as human as possible." "I was turned against my will too," Carmilla said softly. "And I spent decades being angry about it. But Blake, we're not monsters. We're just different. 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 And now we're different together." Blake pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I love you. I've been wanting to say that for weeks, but I was afraid. Afraid of what you'd think if you knew the real me. I love you too. And Blake, this is the real you. This is the real both of us." They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in the dim tent, finally able to be themselves. Then Carmilla pulled back with a mischievous smile. "So, want to go hunt together?" Blake grinned, his fangs fully extended for the first time around her. "Thought you'd never ask." Leaving the campsite was easier than arriving. They packed up in minutes. Vampire speed was incredibly convenient, and were back in the city before midnight. Blake's apartment felt different now. Safer. Carmilla sprawled on his couch like she owned it, no longer worried about being too cold or too still or too anything. "I can't believe I spent 4 months drinking cold coffee to seem normal," she said. Blake brought her a blood bag from his mini fridge. "I can't believe you never wondered why I had a locked fridge labeled medication. Do not open." "I trusted you," Carmilla said, taking the bag gratefully. "Turns out I should have been more suspicious." "Same." They drank in comfortable silence. It was strange, Blake thought, how natural this felt. "How right. Can I ask you something?" Blake said. "Anything. How did you do it? 57 years of this. How did you not go crazy?" Carmilla was quiet for a moment. "Who says I didn't? The first decade was hell. I killed people, Blake. A lot of people. I was angry and scared, and I didn't know how to control it." Blake tensed. He'd never killed a human. Had come close a few times, but never crossed that line. Carmilla noticed his reaction. "I'm not proud of it. And I haven't killed anyone in 40 years. I learned control. I learned to see myself as something other than a monster." She looked at him. "But I was alone. I did it all alone. You don't have to do that. Neither do you. Not anymore." She smiled. "Not anymore." The next few weeks were a revelation. Blake and Carmilla could finally be themselves. No more excuses, no more lies, no more carefully timed meetings. They went hunting together, racing through the woods faster than any human eye could follow. They fed on deer, on rabbits, on the occasional aggressive predator. Blake introduced Carmilla to ethical hunting, taking only what they needed, never killing, always leaving the animal alive. "You're a better person than I am," Carmilla said one night, watching Blake carefully seal a deer's wound with his own blood to help it heal faster. "You're the one who taught yourself control," Blake countered. "I had the internet. You did this alone in the 1980s. They started spending entire days together, sleeping in Blake's blacked-out bedroom, waking up at sunset wrapped around each other. Carmilla moved in officially after 2 weeks. "This is fast," Blake said, helping her carry boxes up the stairs at vampire speed. "Blake, we're immortal. We have all the time in the world. Who cares if it's fast?" He kissed her. "Good point. But of course, it wasn't all perfect. Marcus figured it out first." Blake's roommate wasn't stupid. He'd noticed the weird hours, the locked fridge, the girlfriend who never aged, never ate, and never seemed to have a reflection in certain lights. He confronted Blake one evening when Carmilla was out. "I know what you are," Marcus said. Blake froze. "What?" "You're a vampire. Both of you." There was a long silence. "Are you going to try to kill me?" Blake asked quietly. Marcus laughed. "Dude, no. I'm a werewolf. I don't care what you are as long as you pay rent on time." Blake blinked. "You're a what?" "Werewolf. You seriously didn't know? I thought vampires could sense that stuff. I thought you were just really into the gym." They stared at each other, then both burst out laughing. "We're all terrible at this supernatural thing," Marcus said. "The worst," Blake agreed. Carmilla's friend Luna took it less well. "You're a what?" Luna shrieked when Carmilla finally told her. "A vampire. I've been a vampire for 57 years. And you didn't tell me? Would you have believed me?" Luna opened her mouth, then closed it. "Okay, fair point. But still, I'm your best friend." "I know. I'm sorry. I was scared you'd hate me." Luna was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can you turn into a bat?" "What? No. Lame. Can you fly?" "No. Can you turn me into a vampire?" Carmilla's eyes widened. "Luna, that's not. You don't want." "I'm kidding." Luna laughed. "Mostly. I mean, immortality does sound cool, but I like food too much." She hugged Carmilla. "You're still my best friend, even if you're a creepy undead night creature." "Thanks. But I want to meet Blake properly now. No more of this secretive crap. If you're both vampires, you can both come to my birthday party. At night. I'll make it a midnight thing." Carmilla smiled. "Deal." 6 months after the camping trip revelation, Blake and Carmilla were stronger than ever. They'd found a rhythm. They attended night classes together. They hunted together. They even found a community of other vampires in the city. A support group, essentially, where they could talk about the challenges of immortality. "It's weird," Blake admitted at one meeting. "I spent 5 years thinking I was the only vampire in the city." An older vampire laughed. "Kid, there are dozens of us. We're just good at hiding." Carmilla squeezed Blake's hand. "Not anymore." They started making plans. Real plans. The kind you make when you have forever. "I want to travel," Carmilla said one night, looking at a map spread across their bed. "I've been stuck in this city for 40 years. I want to see the world." "Where first?" Blake asked. "Everywhere. Europe, Asia, Africa. All the places I never got to see as a human." She looked at him. "With you." Blake kissed her forehead. "I'm in. But I need to finish my degree first." "Blake, you're immortal. You can finish 1,000 degrees. Still want to finish this one." Carmilla laughed. "Fine. We'll travel after graduation. We have time." They had all the time in the world. But not everything was perfect. Blake still struggled with what he was. Some nights, he'd wake up from a nightmare about the night he was turned, about the vampire who'd attacked him and left him for dead. Carmilla understood. She had her own nightmares. "Do you ever wish you were human again?" Blake asked one night. "Sometimes," Carmilla admitted. "I miss the sun. I miss food. I miss the idea of growing old naturally." She turned to him. "But I wouldn't trade this. Not anymore. Because being a vampire led me to you. That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said. Shut up. You love it. I do, Blake admitted, pulling her close. The real test came when Blake's family visited. Blake had been avoiding his parents for 5 years. Had told them he was too busy with school, with work, with life. In reality, he couldn't face them knowing what he'd become. But Carmilla convinced him to try. They're your family, Blake. They deserve to know you're okay. They'll know something's wrong. I look the same as I did 5 years ago. You look 23. That's not suspicious yet. But in 10 years, 20, you'll regret not seeing them while you still can. So Blake invited his parents to dinner. It was awkward. His mother kept trying to feed him food he couldn't eat. His father asked why he looked so pale. But when they met Carmilla, something shifted. You seem good for him, Blake's mother said, pulling Carmilla aside while Blake and his father argued about sports. He seems happier, more alive. Carmilla almost laughed at the irony. I try. Take care of him. He's sensitive. Always has been. I will, Carmilla promised. I love him. I can tell. Blake's mother smiled. You two have something special. Don't let it go. After his parents left, Blake broke down crying. Carmilla held him. I lied to them, he sobbed. About everything. You protected them, Carmilla corrected. There's a difference. I can never tell them the truth. I know. I'm sorry. They stayed like that for hours, grieving the life Blake had lost and would never get back.